The thing about marrying into a wealthy family is that you never quite realize you're marrying into a system until that system chews you up. My wife, Amber, always downplayed her parents. "They're intense," she said. "Not bad, just high expectations." I didn't get it. I mean, I'm a mechanic. My job's honest, I love my kid, I fix cars, I go home. Easy. So when I met Patricia and Gerald Morrison, it felt like walking into a country club where someone had accidentally invited a guy with grease under his nails. They were cold, polished, and oddly polite, like they'd rehearsed their niceness. But they never really looked at me. Not once. And when Amber told them we were having Ruby, they responded with, "Let's hope she takes after her mother." Fast forward to this year's Christmas. Amber said she had a bad feeling, but Ruby was so excited to see the cousins. "Santa's coming to Grandma and Grandpa's," she said, practically vibrating. 7 years old, still in that golden window of belief, where Christmas magic is real and reindeer might land on your roof. We walked into their house, huge tree, matching wrapping paper, the whole catalog set up, and watched all the kids dig into a mountain of presents. Except Ruby. There was nothing for her. I waited. I thought maybe they forgot hers upstairs or stashed it somewhere. But no. My father-in-law didn't even look up from his paper when she whispered, "Did Santa forget me?" Amber's mom smiled like she was hosting a talk show. "Oh, sweetie. Santa only brings gifts to the grandchildren who are truly loved." The words dropped like a brick into a room full of squealing kids. And just like that, the air went still. I watched my daughter's face crumple. I watched Amber freeze, her eyes going dead like she'd been slapped. My fist clenched so hard I thought I might crack a tooth. That night, Ruby cried herself to sleep, and I sat awake in the dark with Amber beside me, her body rigid. "I'm done," she said. "What does that mean?" "It means they wanted to break me. But they broke Ruby. And now I'm going to burn it all down." I believed her. Amber didn't say much the next morning. She just moved through the house with this eerie kind of calm, tight-lipped, eyes sharp, like a storm funneling itself into silence. I made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs for Ruby, who barely touched them. She kept looking at the window like she expected Santa to come back with an apology. After breakfast, Amber pulled out the fireproof box from our closet. The one I hadn't seen since her grandmother passed. "They'd been holding something over me," she muttered, sifting through legal papers. "Grandma Rose left a trust. It was supposed to vest on my 30th birthday. I turned 39 months ago. My dad keeps saying there are complications." She found the will. Not a copy, a signed, original version, notarized, her name bold as hell. "It says right here, full transfer at age 30. No conditions. No delays. You think he's stealing it?" "I know he is." That's when the phone buzzed. First Margaret, her sister, sending a text that read, "Hey, I'm sure it was just a mistake. Don't overreact." Then her brother Keith, chiming in, "Talk to them after the holidays. Don't make it awkward for the rest of us." I watched Amber's face morph from disbelief to something I'd never seen before. Pure surgical resolve. They don't get to humiliate my kid and steal from me. They think I'll just fade away like I always do. But not this time. She called a lawyer the same afternoon. Young guy. Nathan Briggs. He looked like a barista who moonlighted as a Jedi, but he knew his stuff. We emailed him scans of everything, and within 24 hours, he sent back a message that changed everything. "This is airtight. Your father is violating the trust. If he doesn't comply, we sue. And we win." It felt surreal, watching Amber transform from the woman who always let her parents walk over her into someone with fire in her veins. She printed out emails, gathered bank statements, even called her Aunt Linda, the black sheep who moved to Oregon after her own fallout with the Morrisons. "You were always Grandma Rose's favorite," Aunt Linda said over the phone. "She told me once, Amber's the only one of them with a soul." I didn't say it out loud, but I agreed. That night, we told Ruby we wouldn't be going to Grandma and Grandpa's for a while. She didn't cry. She just nodded and said, "Okay. Can we stay home forever?" Amber kissed the top of her head. "We can do better than that. We're going to build something new." The demand letter went out on a Wednesday. 7 pages long, signed by Nathan, delivered by certified mail, and so sharp it could have sliced glass. It laid out every legal point, the date the trust vested, the obligations of the trustee, her dad, the exact amount due, including estimated growth and interest, and a deadline, 7 days to comply, or we'd take it to court. Amber hit send on the email approving the letter from the back corner of our local library while Ruby sat cross-legged in the children's section reading a book about black holes. She didn't ask about her grandparents again. She just read in silence, like she'd accepted the universe had a few missing pieces now. The next day, the storm hit. Margaret called first. Of course she did. "What the hell are you doing, Amber?" she hissed through the phone. "Sending legal threats to our father?" "He's furious. You're embarrassing the entire family." "You embarrass yourselves," Amber said calmly, "when you let them humiliate a child to punish me. You think this is about a dollhouse and some Legos? Grow up. This is about your choices. Dad only ever wanted you to do better. By making my daughter feel unloved? That's what counts as motivation now." There was silence on the line, then a cold, sharp voice. "You've always been the weak one, Amber. This tantrum proves it." Click. Amber didn't cry after that call. She went colder. Sharper. Like a blade being honed. The next blow came wrapped in pearls and passive aggression. Her parents sent an attorney, Victoria Westbrook, a woman who looked like she charged by the smirk. She showed up at Amber's school during lunch break. Just walked up to her in the parking lot, holding a manila envelope and a crocodile smile. "Your father would like to resolve this amicably," she said. "He's prepared to offer a settlement." Amber folded her arms. "The settlement I want is the full amount owed. That's not negotiable." Victoria's smile dropped an inch. "You may not understand the implications of taking this public. Your father is respected. A lawsuit could reflect poorly on your career, your marriage, even your daughter." Amber stared her down. "Is that a threat?" "Just a friendly warning. You tell my father this, he's got 5 days left. Then we file. And if you or he ever approach me at work again, I'll file for harassment, too." Amber walked back into the building shaking like a leaf but never looked back. I met her in the teacher's lounge afterward, brought her coffee and just sat beside her. "You okay?" "No," she whispered, "but I've never been more certain." At home that night, Ruby climbed into her lap, held her cheeks gently, and said, "I'm glad we don't go there anymore. It feels warm here now." Amber just nodded, eyes full of something between grief and relief. The fire had officially started. And her parents had no idea how much kindling they'd piled beneath their own feet. The check arrived 3 days later. No note. No apology. Just a plain white envelope delivered by courier, containing a certified check made out to Amber for $83,492.76, the full amount of the trust plus interest. It was quiet in our kitchen as we stared at it on the counter, like it might bite. "That's it," I said. "Just, here's your money and go away?" Amber crossed her arms, jaw tight. "He thinks this ends it. That I'll stop because he gave me what he owed. He doesn't get it. This was never just about money." She called Nathan that night. "We have the check," she told him. "But we're not done." His voice was calm, steady. "Then let's dig deeper." What followed was a kind of legal slow burn that lit up everything the Morrisons had tried to hide. Nathan started looking into Morrison properties, the family business Gerald and Patricia built like some goddamn dynasty. Rental units across the county, commercial leases, vacation homes. Too many red flags to ignore. Multiple fair housing complaints, Nathan told us. All settled quietly. And something weird about their property taxes. Amber leaned forward. "How weird?" "Weird enough I've passed it along to the county auditor. If they'd been underreporting income or misclassifying properties, it's not just shady, it's criminal." I watched my wife absorb this like a slow sip of whiskey. "Let them come," she said. "I'm done pretending they're untouchable." Meanwhile, Ruby started smiling again. We took her back to the shelter on weekends, helping serve meals. She made friends with a girl named Zoe whose parents had split, and they bonded over puzzles and hot chocolate. "Zoe doesn't see her dad because he was mean to her mom," Ruby said one night. "Is that why we don't see Grandma and Grandpa?" Amber knelt down and looked her in the eyes. Partly. But mostly because they were mean to you. And I'll never let anyone hurt you, not even family. Ruby nodded like she understood something ancient. Good, she said. I don't want mean people in our house. It hit me then, how much Amber had changed. How she wasn't just fighting for money or revenge or even herself. She was fighting for Ruby's reality. A new foundation. One where love wasn't conditional and cruelty wasn't tradition. And the foundation was holding. 2 weeks later, the county auditor's office launched an official investigation into Morrison properties. Multiple discrepancies. Multiple subpoenas. The legacy Patricia and Gerald had spent 40 years building was now under forensic review. And the thing is? They still didn't call. They still thought Amber would blink first. But they didn't know who they were dealing with anymore. The first time Amber laughed, really laughed, after everything, was the night she got the email from Aunt Linda. She read it out loud to me from her laptop at the kitchen table, voice light with disbelief. They're panicking. Gerald's lawyer just called my old number by mistake, thinking I still lived in Oregon. Left a voicemail asking if I'd testify that you've always been unstable. I saved the recording. Thought you'd want it. Amber burst into laughter. Not the sarcastic kind. The real, shoulder-shaking, tears in her eyes kind. I hadn't heard it in months. That's their new plan? She said. To paint me as unstable? They're tripping over their own lies now. And they were. Nathan had started compiling evidence for the next step, a full complaint alleging breach of fiduciary duty, and, pending the county audit, potential criminal fraud. Meanwhile, the fallout had started. Margaret's husband filed for divorce. Keith lost his job when Morrison Properties had to slash staff to cover mounting legal fees. And my in-laws? They went silent. The kind of silence that only people drowning in paperwork and unpaid taxes can manage. But it wasn't about vengeance anymore. Not for Amber. It was about building something clean. We took Ruby to the beach in August, just the 3 of us. We built sandcastles, collected shells, watched her laugh in the surf like nothing had ever broken her heart. Mom, she said, curled up in Amber's arms that night on the balcony. Are you still mad at Grandma and Grandpa? Amber kissed the top of her head. No. Not mad. Just done. Will we see them again? Amber thought about it for a moment. I don't think so, baby. And that's okay. Ruby nodded. Good. I like this version of us better. And so did I. Amber had stopped flinching when the phone rang. She didn't jump at every new email from Nathan. She started smiling in her sleep again. I know that sounds weird, but you learn someone's peace when you lie beside them every night. Then, in September, the final crack came. Patricia and Gerald put their house on the market. The Grand Morrison estate, the place with the enormous Douglas fir, the custom wine cellar, the imported tile in the bathroom, was listed at a loss. They couldn't keep up with the legal bills. The fines. The mounting public scrutiny. We saw the listing by accident, during one of those late-night Zillow spirals. Amber stared at the photos for a long time. Not with satisfaction. Not with revenge. With clarity. They built that place out of control, she said. And now it's all crumbling. She shut the laptop gently and turned to me. I'm not scared of them anymore. And I knew that wasn't just a feeling. It was a fact. October came in sharp and cold, and with it, something we hadn't expected, an email from Margaret. Not an attack, not a demand. Just a few quiet lines. I've started therapy. My therapist asked me to examine why I stood by when Mom and Dad hurt you and Ruby. I don't have answers yet. But I'm sorry. For all of it. I was wrong. Amber read it 3 times before saying anything. She didn't cry. She didn't delete it. She just sat there, staring at the screen. Do you believe her? I asked. I don't know, she said. But it's the first time she's ever said the word sorry without a knife hidden behind it. She wrote back carefully. I appreciate you sharing that. I hope therapy helps. Maybe someday we'll talk again. I'm not ready yet. But thank you? Margaret replied almost immediately. That's more grace than I deserve. Thank you? For Amber, that moment felt heavier than the check. Heavier than the lawsuits. Because it wasn't about legal wins, It was about truth finally breaking through the Morrison legacy of pride and silence. Meanwhile, Ruby was thriving. She joined the school play, cast as a talking tree, which she took very seriously, and we spent every evening practicing lines in the living room. She had a glitter-covered script and 3 costume sketches. "I need leaves, real ones," she declared, "and a crown made of twigs. Because I'm not just a tree. I'm Queen Tree of the Forest." She was becoming her again. Loud, creative, fearless. The kind of kid who doesn't wonder if she's loved, because she just knows. One night, after dinner, she looked up at Amber and asked, "Can I invite Zoe over for Thanksgiving? Her dad's not nice, so she's spending it with her mom, but I told her our house has the safe kind of food." Amber smiled. "Safe food?" "Yeah, the kind that doesn't make your tummy sad because people are fighting." We invited Zoe's whole family. And Aunt Linda. And Jake's parents. And Nathan and his wife, even though we joked that inviting your lawyer to Thanksgiving was peak petty. But it wasn't petty. It was rebuilding. Thanksgiving arrived like a quiet miracle. No fancy dishes. No judgment. Just warmth. Just people who chose each other, not out of obligation, but out of kindness. Ruby stood up at dinner, halfway through her mashed potatoes, and tapped her glass with a spoon. "I just want to say thank you," she said, "for being my real family." And somehow, nobody cried. Not until later, when Jake's mom pulled Amber aside and said, "Your daughter will never wonder if she's enough." "You made sure of that," Amber whispered. "That was the point." The letter arrived in mid-November. Not an email. Not a phone call. A physical, handwritten letter from Gerald Morrison himself. Cream-colored stationery, the Morrison family crest in gold at the top, because of course he had custom letterhead. Amber opened it while Ruby was at school. I watched her expression shift in real time, brows rising, lips tightening, eyes going sharp as razors. She read it aloud. "Amber, your mother and I are relocating to Arizona. The business has been dissolved. There's no longer any reason for us to remain here. I am writing at your mother's insistence to apologize for the incident involving Ruby. While I maintain that our intentions were misinterpreted, I acknowledge it was handled poorly and caused distress. You must understand our actions came from concern for your life choices, not malice. The legal fallout has cost us everything we built over 40 years. I hope you're satisfied with your revenge. Despite everything, we remain your parents. The door is open if you wish to repair this relationship. Gerald Morrison." Amber folded it calmly and slid it into the drawer next to the batteries and the coupons we always forget to use. "I'll show it to Ruby one day," she said, "as an example of how not to apologize." And that was it. That was the last gasp of the empire. The final whimper of 2 people who could never understand that control isn't love, and status isn't legacy. On Thanksgiving weekend, Ruby and Zoe performed their play in the school auditorium. Queen Tree of the Forest was radiant, twigs in her hair, glitter on her cheeks, voice loud and proud as she proclaimed, "The forest stands tall because we stand together." I cried. I fully, embarrassingly cried. Afterward, Ruby ran to us in the crowd, arms full of flowers someone had handed her, eyes wide and shining. "Did I do good?" she asked. Amber dropped to her knees. "You did perfect." That night, we decorated our own tree. Not 15 feet tall like the Morrison showpiece, not dripping with gold-plated ornaments, but it was ours. Ruby hung a paper star on top that she made in art class, and we all clapped like it was the Rockefeller Center lighting. She turned to Amber and asked, "Can we do Christmas here forever?" Amber looked at me, then at her. "Yeah, baby. We can." And just like that, a tradition ended, and a new one began. Christmas morning arrived with soft snow and quiet laughter. No suit jackets. No forced smiles. Just flannel pajamas, coffee mugs, and Ruby bouncing on our bed at 6:14 a.m. shouting, "It's Christmas! It's Christmas! There's a telescope-shaped box under the tree!" Jake groaned theatrically and pulled a pillow over his head. "I told Santa to deliver that at noon." We all stumbled out to the living room, where our tree sparkled in the early light, its handmade ornaments swaying gently as Ruby dove beneath it like a kid on a mission from God. There were wrapped books, a space puzzle, A DIY rocket kit, a sweatshirt that said future astrophysicist, and yes, a telescope. She unwrapped it carefully, reverently, then gasped. It's the one with the adjustable tripod. And the zoom lens. You remembered. We always remember. Amber whispered, smiling. The house smelled like cinnamon rolls. A fire crackled in the hearth. And on the windowsill sat a little ceramic handprint Ruby had once made for her grandparents, forgotten by them, cherished by us. Later that day, we bundled up and headed to the shelter. This had become our new tradition, service before celebration. Ruby helped organize juice boxes into neat rows and passed out candy canes to other kids, proudly explaining to anyone who would listen that she had started this tradition last year, and it was a thing now. More families had joined us this time. Some from Ruby's school. Some who had heard about the effort through Aunt Linda, who stood near the back wearing an apron that said "Baking is my love language," dishing out mashed potatoes like a warrior. Did you know? Ruby said to a group of wide-eyed kids. That stars make new elements when they explode? That's what Grandma Rose used to say about family. Sometimes stuff has to break so something better can be born. Amber and I froze. I don't think we'd ever told Ruby that line exactly. But somehow, she'd carried it with her. That night, after the shelter and after dinner with Jake's parents and Aunt Linda, after board games and pie and hugs that lingered, we curled up on the couch beneath a big fuzzy blanket. Ruby dozed off mid-sentence, curled into my side like she used to when she was 3 and still believed the moon followed our car. Amber looked over at me, eyes full of something that wasn't sadness anymore. Do you regret anything? She asked softly. I thought of the letter from her father. The court filings. The check that still sat in our safe, untouched except for the portion we put into Ruby's college fund. I thought about Margaret's therapy sessions. Keith's silence. The email from a distant cousin saying, "I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I didn't know how." I thought about Gerald and Patricia in some gated Arizona retirement village, probably still convincing themselves they'd done nothing wrong. That they were the victims. That we had overreacted. I looked at our daughter, peaceful, safe, loved. Not a single thing, I said. Everything we did led us here. Amber leaned her head on my shoulder. I still get angry sometimes. Like flashbacks. It hits me randomly, Ruby's face that day. The way she looked so small standing there with no presence while everyone else was squealing and tearing into paper. I know, I said. Me too. But it's different now. It doesn't live in me anymore. It just visits. We sat like that for a long time. And here's the thing no one tells you about cutting out toxic family. It hurts. Even when it's the right thing. Even when it's overdue. There's grief in letting go of the version of them you wish they could be. But there's freedom, too. Because once that door closed, we didn't just escape something dark. We walked into something light. Ruby began to blossom. Her confidence soared. She made friends, joined art club, sang again in the shower. She no longer asked about Patricia and Gerald. When kids at school asked about her grandparents, she talked about Jake's parents, who showed up to every school play, every science fair, every silly little performance in the living room. They're my real grandparents, she told one teacher. The kind that bring hot cocoa and actually see you. In January, Amber was offered a promotion at work. She accepted it with zero hesitation. No guilt. No voice in the back of her head saying, would Mom and Dad approve? She didn't need their approval. She had her own now. In February, Keith tried to contact her. A vague text. Hope you're well. I've been thinking about everything. She left it on read. In March, a new family moved into the Morrisons' old house. We drove by once. Ruby spotted the for sale sign gone and said, "That's not our story anymore." And she was right. By spring, the lawsuit had ended. Quietly. Without fanfare. Gerald and Patricia had signed a non-disclosure agreement and paid a final settlement, more hush money than restitution, but we took it. Not because we needed it. Because it was proof. Proof that truth doesn't stay buried forever. And that sometimes the best thing you can do for your child is show them how to fight with grace. Now, we live differently. Not flashier. Not richer. Just more honestly. More gently. With better traditions. We have pancakes shaped like galaxies on Sundays. We play music during dinner. We hang every single drawing Ruby makes, even the weird ones where all the people have 5 arms. And every year on Christmas Eve, we sit by the fire and read Grandma Rose's favorite book, The Velveteen Rabbit. Because love isn't about perfection. It's about becoming real. And we are. More real than we've ever been. That's the legacy we chose. Not the Morrison name, but the Morrison lesson. That the worst things people do to you don't have to define you. You can write your own ending. And ours? Ours is just beginning.